Welcome to the Startup Grind.
So without any further ado, I'd like to welcome the guest tonight, Rian Buckley from Fitcode. Come on up, Ryan.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, that was something.
Yes, yes. It's a funny. I've introduced a few people that the only thing they were scared of the whole evening was that part. It was just walking through the crowd of people screaming and yelling. It was quite scary for some.
Luckily, I've walked on a few runways
Yes.
before as a model, so I'm a little used to that, but this is definitely a friendlier crowd than I've seen in the past, Thank you.
Yes. Well, so first of all, just thanks for being here. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And why don't you just kind of start off and tell everyone the elevator pitch. What's Fitcode? Give us the basics of that, and then we can start from there.
Yeah, definitely. So Fitcode is a product that is placed right on brand and retailer websites. So what we do is when you are shopping for jeans, it's now men's and women's. We started just with women's. And say you are on a site like Hudson Jeans and you see hundreds of, if not thousands of different options of what to buy, and you have no idea which is going to fit. Fitcode comes in, we ask you 4 questions, we don't need measurements, and then from there we personalize the whole experience. So we say, out of these 800 jeans that are offered, here are the 15 that are going to fit you and what size to buy in them.
And so, what's the inspiration? Now, being a model, I'm sure you're trying on boatloads of jeans that don't fit well, and you have clips in the back to hold them up, and pins everywhere to make them look perfect. Is that where it all started? Was that just kind of just experiencing it yourself?
Yeah, it was from years of modeling. So modeling was my introduction to the fashion industry, and so I spent the first 6 years or so from my junior year in college until after college modeling for companies all around the world. One of the biggest being here in Nordstrom. I was those 2 legs you see in all those denim images for years. And it was amazing. I would be on set and the jeans would look perfect from the front, and then if I turned around, I would be completely exposed in the back. I would have clips and pins just holding the jeans together so they look good from the front, but in the back they're completely torn up. And at the same time, offset, I was listening to retailers complain about the online return rate. And I thought, there is this huge void here. What people are seeing in product images and what they're getting at the door is just not the same. And then at the same time, you're putting all of these products online and people can't try them on. So how are they going to find jeans that fit? So that's where it all really started. And, the genesis of it all came from thinking, hey, this is a big problem. I've been given a really interesting, view into it. And if I don't do this, someone else is going to. And the reason why I, got that, braveness to start was just being concerned that someone else was going to do it and I was going to miss out. So that was really the deciding factor for me. I was like, you got to do it. You got to do it now.
Yeah, or else somebody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
Before you do it. Yeah. And what's really interesting, and what I really like about this is that you've never done remotely anything. I mean, nothing. So, tell us, that's a huge step. It's a huge step to just I'm going to do this. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out, right? So tell us, how, did you have a boyfriend there? Are you married? How did that, talking about your inner circle, I'm sure you talked to some people that said, hey, I'm going to do this, and they're like, you're crazy. There's no way in hell that's going to work. I'm sure that happened.
Yeah. I wish my husband's here tonight, and I wish I could say that he was the big help here, but he was a football player, so he did not come with a technical background. But, it really did come from, he was inspiring to me. It was a lot of people around me that were just like, why not you? Why do you have to have the perfect resume to start a company? And so I graduated with a degree in political science and ocean conservation studies, and then I started modeling.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good degree. Why? That's perfect.
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with startups, nothing to do with technology, and also nothing to do with modeling. So I think, you just you set the foundation, you do it, you go where you're passionate at the moment, and then you see where life takes you. And so I was able to start modeling, and from there I never thought hey, if I start modeling, I'm gonna start a startup. But you discover these problems, and just like you were saying in the intro, if you find a big problem and you start realizing this is a problem for multiple people, you may have discovered something special. And so kind of look into that and lean into that.
Yeah. And what was so when was the month that you had the idea I'm going to do this? What month and year was that? What was the
You know, it was in 2014 is when I actually decided to start working on it. I don't know the month that it was. We launched officially in February of 2015, but we really were building just kind of internally in 2014.
So let's just say it was July of 14.
Sure.
So you're sitting there with some friends in July of 14 saying, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And it is now January of 18. If you look back now, what is the biggest surprise for Ryan about you personally? Like, what did you learn about Ryan that you were like, holy shit, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know I was that good at that, or I was that bad at that, or what was the big surprise for you?
I think that, you know, that's a great question, but I think that being naive is a huge strength, and I think that if you had asked me in the beginning stages, like, you don't have any experience in this, how's that going to play out? I would have been like, ooh, that's going to be a detriment. And to me, it was probably the biggest strength I had going into this, because I knew the problem really, really intimately. I knew where I wanted the product to go. I had no idea technically what it was going to take to build it, and so that was never a hurdle for me. And so I just knew what consumers wanted, I knew what retailers and brands wanted, and then my amazing dev teams had to make it work. But I didn't go into it thinking, ooh, this is going to be really hard to solve, and so therefore, you know, not actually wanting to try. It's just like, I know we can do this. I know where it needs to go. You guys figure out how to do it.
Yeah, so that's great. So then, basically, not knowing to do it actually was a strength of that.
Absolutely.
And what is the thing that you've had to learn? Like, you've had to learn how to do. Like, you've never managed people before. You're doing that. You're gonna want a team like 8 or 10, 12 people now.
Yep.
So, what things have you learned that you just, one, had to learn, but two, actually turned out to be pretty good at it?
You know, I think the thing you have to learn when you are a first-time founder and then the CEO, especially of a company our size, which is still pretty small, is that you have to wear every single hat. And so everyone on our team wears a lot of hats, but as the CEO, you know, you are the people manager, which is something that I had to learn and I'm still learning how to do. In the beginning stages, you do all the invoicing, you do all the financing, you do all the HR, you work with legal, and then you have to do all the sales, and you have to do all the product development, and then you have to do all the strategy. And so there is a lot to learn, and I think the thing that I got good at in the beginning is starting to segment my day. And so I'll spend certain amounts of my day focusing on one thing, and I really try to stay there, because if I start, you know, being like that ping pong ball, I'm never going to get things done. And so I got really good at just segmenting and being like, right now I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to move on to this next part of my day.
Yeah, so you just learned how to kind of manage your day, the time in your day.
Yeah, absolutely. And then turning it off at the end of the day, that's something I've really had to learn to do.
Yeah, yeah. And do you ever really turn it off?
You don't turn off the stress, but I think you can turn off I live by this theory that the best thing to alleviate stress is hard work, and it's hard at that point if startups come with an abundant amount of stress, and so it's hard to turn it off. But if you can be like, hey, you know, have a super productive 8 to 9 hours, 10 hours during your day, and then turn it off and go to sleep, because if you don't have those few hours off, you're not going to be productive the next day.
Yeah. So and not that you have to stop, you know, thinking about it, but you have to turn off the stress, turn off the pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's very hard for some and extraordinarily easy for others.
Mm-hmm.
So where is your head at today in looking ahead, say even a year, 18 months out? Like, where do you things that you think you're gonna have to learn as a company, not as Ryan, but as a company? What do you think you guys are gonna have to get better at in the next 12 to 18 months to be successful?
I think staying on task. We're kind of right at this cliff right now where we're going to have an explosion of growth most likely in the next next 2 quarters probably. And so it's really understanding that we need to keep our consumer at the forefront of our minds. So we have 2 consumers. We have our brand and retail partners, and we also have the customers who use the product. And so, you know, I talked to the team a lot about it, but there are a ton of really cool places our technology could go. But if we're not hearing the demand from our brands and our retailers and our customers, then we can't go there right now. And so we have to stay really, really focused on what the end goal is.
And tell us about the experience of raising money. That's I'm sure you have a couple stories there, but one. The elephant in the room is your woman raising money, which is, as you know, not an easy process. It's like 4% of the money gets to women-led companies. It's crazy.
2%.
2%, yeah. So it's super small. Tell us, like, what was your philosophy around that? Me being an outsider, I would say not knowing is probably huge here, just because you didn't have any preconceived notions like what this is how it should work.
Mm-hmm.
But how'd that pan out for you?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you raised money, which is great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. Again, it was being naive, and I didn't go in as the underdog. So I think if I went in knowing all these stats and I went in knowing how hard it was for other women to raise money, I would have felt like the underdog, and I would have come in and maybe had that lens come into the process and been more concerned about it. I wasn't concerned because I knew the problem, and I knew that, I never even thought about me being a woman trying to solve it. I thought, I have the position to solve this from. I understand the problem, so why wouldn't you invest? And I talk to other women founders about this all the time, that 2% of money may go to you, but lead with your numbers. You have to lead with your numbers. And being a woman's great, and it's a really big and it's powerful thing, but these people just want to make money, just like you do. And so make it irresistible to them. Let them know, if you invest in me, this is how much money you're going to make, and this is how long it's going to take, and this is why you should, and they're going to invest in you. So always lead with your numbers.
Yeah. And then not the made up ones, the real ones.
Real. Oh my gosh. I mean, the relationship, that's such a good point, because so many people, you see that on TV shows and all this kind of stuff, they go in and they pitch these big VCs, and they have these ridiculous projections, and they don't realize that the relationship with your investor is going to be one of the most important relationships you have in business. Yeah. And they are keeping you guys alive or not. And so if you start off by doing projections that aren't accurate, you're starting off in a dishonest way, and it's not going to be a good relationship. So let them know where you're at, let them know what you're not good at and what they can bring to the table, and it's going to be a good relationship.
Yeah, it's as hard to break up with your VC as it is to get divorced. Actually, probably harder sometimes.
And more expensive.
Yeah, and way more expensive. Mm-hmm. So, don't take that lightly at all.
Not at all.
And if you could, wave your magic wand and start over again, would you change anything? What would you change? Or
with funding or with the company?
No, just starting what you did. Would there be some things you're like, shit, I wish I would have done this, would have saved us 6 months, or would have saved us. Is there any things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can always, hindsight's 20/20, as we all know. We could have stayed on task more. Being a first-time founder and a first-time CEO, there are definitely things that we got excited about, and we went down certain paths that didn't end up being the direction we needed to go, but those were all just lessons learned. It just reminds you, bring it back. Like, you may think this is where the product needs to go, but again, if the people who are paying you for it aren't saying that, listen to that and listen to what they want and what they find to be valuable and go that direction.
I listened to some of the stuff written about you and some of the stuff, actually did a little research. Right?
Nice.
One of the things you talked about was venture capital as debt. It's a really interesting way to think about it. Mm-hmm. But just explain what you've already said before, but just explain what you consider that theory. The theory is that any money you take, whether it's venture capital money or whatever, it's actually debt. And Ryan can explain that.
Yeah, this is something that I hadn't heard before coming into this process. And when I started talking about it, people kept being like, what are you saying? And I was wondering what they were saying, because they were talking about that if you go out and you get this, series, so we've gone through Series A, but Series B is usually where you get the big sums of money, so the 20 million plus. And they were all talking about how, when are you gonna go for Series B? When are you gonna get that big number? And I was thinking, why would I get that big number? Why wouldn't I just work on being profitable? And it was this big, just like, whoa, there's something totally off in this industry, and it's that founders are constantly trying to go for the big number because they think somehow that's going to make their company more valuable. In the olden days, valuations were constantly tied to how much money you raised, and now people are realizing you can't do that anymore. You have to tie valuations to how much money your company's actually making. So for me, knowing that and knowing that's how I wanted to do our startup, I realized the best way to get profitable is to not get myself in that big of a hole with investment. So all I wanted to do is think about how little money could I raise to get us to be cash flow positive. And that's what we're still doing. And it's worked out well for us. I don't want the 20 million because I have to make up that 20 million to even get, to be in power.
Yeah, so what's important to remember there is when you raise 20 million, the investor wants more than 20 million, FYI. Mm-hmm. So let's just say they want 60 million, which would actually only be a 3x, which they don't. They want 10. But if they get 3x, that's 60 million they have to get back. So therefore, your company has to be 100 million before you even get any money as a founder.
Yeah, and that's the thing that people don't talk about. If you're the founder and the CEO, you're not making a lot of money in your salary. So you're betting that this thing's going to be sold. So you're taking a lower salary in these years that you're working really hard and hoping you're going to sell it. And if you have now given away a ton of your company because you wanted that big number because it looked good in press and you thought it was going to make your company cooler, when you do end up selling, if you end up selling, you're giving away a majority of it, and now you're not getting that payday either.
Yeah, it's really important that you bootstrap as long as you humanly possibly can. It's so much better for almost every situation. I say almost because there is some situations not, but
Amen.
Yeah, bootstrap is good. Plus for bootstrap.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you could kind of bring anyone into the company, what would be the most important person to you at this stage of bringing someone in the company?
That's an easy question for me to answer right now because we are doing interviews tomorrow. We need a salesperson. So far, I have been the only salesperson on the team. We now have 2 of our employees helping me out, which is awesome. But we have a huge pipeline, and as you guys know, there are tons of brands and tons of retailers out there, and I cannot possibly do it all.
Yeah.
So we are hiring a salesperson, which is going to be awesome, and it's why I think we're going to explode in the next few months. So my dev team is anxious about that, but also excited.
Yeah, and when did you decide, like, there's no way I can sell, or when was that decision made?
Mainly when I heard from our investor for about the 200th time, like, so when are you going to get more people on board? And I was like, I cannot be on the plane this much. I can't possibly meet with this many people. So
yeah,
we just have to widen that net.
Yeah, it's great. And plus, he probably doesn't want you gone that much either.
Yeah, and I don't want to be gone that much either, so it's perfect.
So tell us your experience, especially early days. And when I say early, the first 12 months is really crazy, it's hard, and it's very unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell us where the things that were the big surprises for you in growing the company at those early stages. I mean, when it's you and a couple people, that kind of stuff. Like, where were the surprises for you that, like, if you and I are going to start a company tomorrow, you're like, hey, these are the things that caught me off guard last time. I'm not going to let this happen this time. Like, what are those things that you could help share with the audience and other people that have ideas to start a company? What were the things that kind of caught you off guard that it was like, here's some things that I should have done better, or I just did well? It's not that you couldn't do it well.
I think you have to have a ton of confidence to start a startup. And I would have said I had a lot of confidence going into this, but I think when you're starting something that's so unknown, you bring in a lot of people to help you. And so you have to really look at the people who you bring on board early on. And this is something that I was pretty careful with, and you have to know that people who you bring on are going to be with the company for a long time, so make sure they're adding value. And the people who I started this company with are people who are still in my life today and are doing amazing things for our company. So I see 2 of them every single day, and it's awesome. But surround yourself with a team of people. It's just like what President Lincoln did, a team of rivals. So surround yourself with people who not only think differently, but are complete experts in things that you're terrible at. So I didn't need someone who had my background, who had my expertise. I need someone who could come in who's made profitable businesses, someone who had a technical background. And so that's what I would really implore people to do, is surround yourself with people who are really strong where you're weak. The other thing too is when you bring people on, you're going to have board members and you're going to have contractors, you're going to have employees, and you have to learn how to structure all of that. So I didn't know how to do any of that. I learned as I went, but that's another thing, is really think about who's going to help you through that process, because people are always going to be the most expensive thing in your company. And so you have to make sure you can stay lean there, but keep really happy employees too. And so talk to people who have done it before and figure out how to structure that for your own company.
Yeah, having the second person they hire, or the third person they hire, or the fourth even, you think about how much effect they have, because they're 25% of your company or 30% of your company, just one hire.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you have to, in the beginning, I think you really have to bring people in who, can do what you cannot do, but it's also all about the culture of the company. You guys have to enjoy coming to work every single day. in the, once you guys grow a little bit more, you can start to hire people who are less of a culture fit, but more of just like they're really kick-ass at what they do, and they're going to help build the company. But in the beginning, you have to surround yourself with people who are going to want to be on this ride with you, because it is not always fun. I can't be super positive every single day, and so you have to have people who are like, hey, this is a grind, and we're enjoying the grind. It's not all, what you see on movies and TV shows. It's not that glamorous, and so they have to really want to be in the trenches with you.
Yeah, it's definitely not glamorous. Rarely glamorous. Where is the what is the thing that makes you get up in the morning? Like, what's the thing? Is it the solving the problem? What is the thing that gets you up every morning, gets you to work, besides a cup of coffee?
Yeah, coffee is important. The thing that keeps me going, because everyone knows about the troughs of despair as a startup founder. It's real. But what keeps me going is if you've built a product that you know is actively solving a problem, and it's not a problem that just you think exists, it's a problem that has been validated across the industry. You also know that the only way it's not going to be successful is if you don't let it be successful. And so every day I get up, and no matter what's happened the day before, the week before with partners or clients or whoever, you have to keep fighting, because in the end, your product will solve the problem, and you just have to keep fighting to get it in the place that it needs to be to do that. And so that's really what keeps me going every day is, we see our competitors building these products, we see that this is a huge need, and we have to outlast them. We have to be more agile, we have to be faster, and we just have to outlast them. And, talking about competitors, I think it's really easy to get intimidated by them, but what I always do is, I have a background, I was a swimmer in college, and so I'm very competitive anyways, but I always think, you can't be scared of these companies that are bigger than you, because they just have people at the forefronts of them too. And so those people have fears, and they have weaknesses, and they have stress too, and so just be stronger, outlast them.
Yeah, and they're not near as nimble.
Yeah, you have to be super nimble and agile.
Yeah. Where is the, again, going back to the scenario, if you and I were starting a company tomorrow, what would be the thing that you would say, this is the must-have first thing we have to do to focus on? What is the first thing we focus on with our idea? In your opinion, what is the most critical thing to focus on?
Really understanding the problem, and understanding how whoever you're solving this problem for thinks about the problem. So for Fitcode, I understood the consumer side. We've all shopped online. We all know you don't know what's going to fit. So I understood that. What I didn't understand is that the fashion industry is really, really resistant to innovation right now. So technology, innovation, it's things that they haven't excelled at in the past, and so they're resistant to it because they just don't understand it. And so I didn't know that going into it, that we were going to have to, pull these companies along with us and teach them that, hey, we know where the industry's at. We all hear about all these stores closing and people going bankrupt, but there's a better way, and it's called e-com, and you can sell things online. You can do it really, really successfully with really good margins, and you have to understand how the people who you're solving this for think about the problem, so you can really position the product for them.
Yeah, it's really being able to put yourself in their shoes, that empathy for the customer, understanding how painful it is for them.
Yeah, and at the same time, they're just a person too who's trying to keep their job. So if you can give them a product that's going to help them keep their job, they're going to want to buy it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually good, because some of them are wanting to keep their job.
All of them are.
Yeah. They're concerned about losing their job.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely.
In your business, in the fashion business, what are some things that are unique to the fashion business that are maybe not in the technology business? Like when you're dealing with Joe Jeans right? Mm-hmm. What is unique to them that maybe not as unique to software company?
Again, that since they're a fashion company, they hold their product highest, and so it's not always about increasing their sales dramatically or being that innovator or being at the forefront of technology. What they're caring about is the creative process and the creative side of their product, and so it's saying, hey, you guys own that. For any of these denim brands, we go in and we say, you guys make awesome jeans. That's what you guys are experts at. What we're really good at is getting your customers to know which of your jeans to buy, and so it's working with these companies to say, hey, you can't do this without us, and it's really good to take these small incremental bets on companies like Fitcode that can come in and say, you have all these genes, let's get them on more people, let's show people how easy it is to find genes that fit and using a product like ours.
And you've had 100,000+ users, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
obviously growing.
Mm-hmm.
That data's got to be getting super valuable.
Yeah, the data's awesome.
Yeah.
So we just found out, I think it was today or yesterday, that we have almost 200,000 users now. So it's growing. I would have said 100,000 if you asked me this like 2 days ago. So we're growing quickly, but the data is amazing. So we have data that people have never seen before because all these brands, retailers have the data of people shopping on their site, but suddenly we're able to say we know the body shapes and the shopping habits of all your customers. And we also know how all of your products map to that. So we can say, for a company like Nordstrom, 30% of your population looks like this, another 30% looks like this, and you are not selling jeans that fit them, and here's what you can sell.
Don't make that jean, it doesn't fit your 30% of your audience.
Exactly.
Right? So they're going all the way back to manufacturing, saying, hey, we don't need that one anymore.
As they should. I mean, this is where my background in modeling really comes in, is that a lot of people don't understand that a denim company makes their entire line off one fit model. So they make all their jeans to fit one woman and then expects it to fit their entire customer base. And that woman's a model. And so they come in and they have this, model's body, and then they think that they can just make a bunch of sizes in that one shape and it's going to fit all women. And we come in and we say, that's not who your customer is. This is who they are. This is what you can do in the hips and the rise to really make your jeans to fit your customer.
Yeah. So that's the secret sauce. That data has become super, super valuable.
Yeah, that's our secret sauce.
Million users, that's super valuable.
Absolutely.
So like the industry, what's the company that goes, like I said, from manufacturing all the way to the store? Is it Zara? Is the one that does it?
Zara does that, yep.
Yeah, so like if they had that data, they could go
Everlane.
back and talk to their manufacturers in like real time.
Oh, yeah. Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, we can change the game from manufacturing all the way to selling. So we can be online, we can be in store, we can be on mobile, and we can also say anything that you're selling, if you're making it based off your Fitcode audience, it's also now going to fit, and you're going to have less stuff that you're sending to markdowns because what you're making is actually fitting your customer base now.
Yeah, that's great. And so where's the like, is data the next kind of play for you guys? Is the data aggregation, is that, I mean, you're going to continue to add brands, obviously, but what's the, like, why is someone going to buy it?
Well, so the product roadmap right now looks like men's first. So we've always been women's. We are launching men's here in the next couple of days, which is great. From there, our focus is going to be going omni-channel and then to retailers. So right now we're just working with single brands, so any of these brand sites. But next up are the big retailers who are multi-brand retailers. So you can imagine someone like Nordstrom's or Macy's or Amazon, when they have all these different brands, it gets even more confusing for the customer. So if someone like Fitcode can come in and say, hey, out of all these brands, again, here are the jeans that you should look at, it's going to be valuable for them.
Yeah, exactly. And where is your, where is the scary part for Ryan? Looking ahead.
Looking ahead? Doing it quick enough that Amazon doesn't try to do the same
Exactly.
thing. Yeah. We live in Seattle, so they're right across the lake.
Sure.
It's like that neighbor who you really want to be friends with, but
I don't want to tell them too much.
but they're like a little bit too cool for you, and you're like trying to be cool enough for them. It's one of those things. So it's protecting your product, but also not being fearful. That's something that I think all entrepreneurs struggle with. So you have to take the appropriate steps. We have now 4 patents on our product, which I would encourage anyone who has a product to do in the earliest stages. So what you have to do is, as soon as you get an idea, patent it, because it takes usually about 3 years until those patents actually come through, but they are issued by the date that you file them. So file them really, really early. And protect it in the sense that you don't give away too much of your secret sauce, but at the same time, you have to be out there talking about your product. So in the early days, I was like, how am I going to talk about this without giving the idea away?
Sure.
And then you realize you just got to get out there. Just go do it. No one's going to have your background. No one's going to be able to do what you do. So just go do it. Be agile about it.
Yeah, no one's going to have your passion. No one's going to have your desire to make that thing happen.
Yeah. And at the same time, if they do start copying you, now we've just taken it as a compliment because people won't copy something that's not valuable. So if we can just keep a step ahead, that's where we want to be.
Yeah. And where's the, what's been the hardest thing to grow the company to you, in your opinion? What's been the hardest thing, part of it for, is it the technology? Is it the people? What's been the toughest thing for you guys to grow?
Probably getting brands on as fast as I would like them to. So I kind of struggle because I want the company to grow as fast as it possibly can, just because I think it's really exciting and I want to always have new partners coming on. You do have to balance it though. So you hear a lot of stories and I get a lot of advice from people that are like, don't try to go too fast. Don't try to do too much at one time. You know, keep it steady, pace yourself. And so it's always this balance between the two. How many partners can we bring on, but how many can we actually support and not getting one ahead of the other?
Yeah. What kind of swimmer were you?
Sprinter. Shocking.
I was going to ask that. And where is the, again, knowing your industry and the technology that you're doing, where is the holes in that? Like, where's the, like, if you're Amazon, where do you see the opportunities, like, in your business right now? Where do you think those are? If I was going to start a company, where it's like, hey, Mike, this is an opportunity. You should look at this.
Holes in Fitcode or holes in the industry? Like
Holes in the industry, not Fitcode.
returns are huge, so it's something that Fitcode's solving for on the front end. So returns are anywhere from 40 to 60% of all things bought online and returned. So it's a huge, huge problem for these companies. Fitcode lessens returns, but there is a big problem on how returns are processed on the back end. That's something that I see a lot of. We have found in the past year and a half that fashion brands are amazing at creating product and terrible at technology, and they're terrible at knowing how to use technology. And so if I were to create something else in this space, which I don't know if I would be, there are a bunch of e-commerce platforms out there, and if you can create one that can actually do everything for a brand or a retailer, you're going to win in that space. Because right now there are a bunch of different e-commerce platforms and they're really just not that good, and the partners aren't very happy with them. And so if you can create one just really badass platform that these companies can go to and just totally turn their heads the other way and just know you're going to support them, you're going to get those partners.
Yeah. And do you think the lack of technology acumen or whatever, where does that come from, the CEO level, or does that come from, why are they so backward, or why are they not accepting technology? What's your opinion on that?
I think it depends on what companies you're talking about. I've seen a few different things. There are a CEO of one company said this to me once, and it's stuck in my head ever since, that there are dinosaurs at the top of some of these companies, and they are trying to do business the same way they've always done business, and it's just not there anymore. So brick and mortar stores are closing, people have to go online, and they are not adjusting to that fast enough. So they're trying to find new ways to market, new ways to bring people in store, and online e-com is right there, and they're just not focusing on it or making it a priority. So until these people who believe in e-com are coming up in the ranks of these companies, they're just having a tough time. So Macy's, for example, that's a really, really tough one. They have a lot of power. They could do a lot more with their online experience, but they're just not prioritizing it right now.
Yeah, it's just not at the C level. It's not number one.
Yeah, and then you have a company like Walmart, who, no matter what you think about Walmart, they are innovating like crazy, and they're acquiring companies like crazy because they know that's what they have to do to compete with an Amazon.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the exciting thing for the industry, say 5 years from now? If we're going to look way ahead, to me that's way ahead. 5 years from now, like, who knows what's going to be like. So if we look 5 years ahead, where do you think the industry is going to be? And I'm talking about the fashion brands. Mm-hmm. Where do you think that's going to be, in your opinion? Like, what's that look like?
I think it's an exciting space. So consumers now are in so much more control than they've ever been. So I've talked about this a lot, but it's this complete switch from it being a supply-driven world to a demand-driven world. So even 10 years ago, brands and retailers totally dictated what people bought. So it was whatever the designers were making, the lower brands would pick up and they would make, and then people would buy. Suddenly now with social media, customers are in control. So all of us get to control what these brands are marketing and how they're marketing and what they're selling. And what we've seen kind of across the board is that it is no longer good enough to make a good product. You have to have a good product from a good company that has a good mission. And that is really exciting to me. And so there's accountability now with social media, there's accountability with just, how much media is involved in this space. And so you have to have a company that stands for something. And in 5 years, I think that's where we're going. I think we're gonna have environmentally conscious brands. I think we're gonna have, body positivity brands and all this stuff just leading the industry.
Yeah. See that you can use your degree, that's right there.
I'm trying to tie it together. I'm hoping that's where it goes.
What is the, for Ryan, is this let's just say you sell this company in 4 years. So you make at least some money. Are you going to do it again?
Yes. I think I would like to say no. I think any startup entrepreneur at this part of the process would like to say no. They would never be this crazy again. But I think about the world as problems waiting to be solved. And so there's no way I can honestly say that I'm not going to see something that I'm passionate about solving for again.
Yeah, interesting. And there's a question that I literally ask every single guest. How did you make the first dollar that wasn't from a relative? So what was the job you did that someone gave you compensation for that wasn't a relative or wasn't your next door neighbor, like you actually did a job? What was that job and how old were you?
This is a good question. Well, I had a lawnmower business when I was really young, and since I grew up in Olympia and I came from a family of hippies, my mom didn't let us use a gas lawnmower, so I had to cart along this stupid push mower and mow all of our neighbors' lawns with the push mower, so I think she was just trying to get me a workout. But I was a hustler as a kid, and my sister, she's in the Army and Special Forces, so she's like service driven, and for example, my parents always needed their cars washed, and my sister would volunteer to wash the cars for free because she was like, I'm great, I'm the perfect child. And then I would come along and be like, no, your Tahoe is clearly $25, and if you want me to, do...
Detail it.
Yeah, if you want me to do your Volkswagen van again, that's going to be $30 because I have to climb up. And so, car washing, lawn mowing, but... I think you can kind of establish as young kids where people are going to go. My sister is always like, I'm just doing this because I'm a perfect person. And I was like, I'm doing this because I'm making money. So. So lawn mowing is when someone gave you money and said, thank you for mowing my lawn, here's $10 or whatever. Yep, definitely lawn mowing.
Awesome. How old were you? Or how old do you think you were?
Oh, I was probably like 8. I was young.
Wow.
And that's why that push mower was so hard. I couldn't, if I didn't have momentum, I couldn't get that thing going. My sister would have to start it for me, and then I would push it because they're heavy.
Yeah, they're heavy. And if you gotta go up the hill, you're totally screwed.
No. I didn't do hills. My sister did. She's a good person.
Did you split any money with her?
No.
Hell no.
She wouldn't have taken it even if I wanted to, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What was your first job?
I was a paper boy.
Nice.
Yeah.
How old?
Oh shit, 10 years old. Freezing cold in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, that's too early in the morning.
5 a.m. Man, it was fun.
No,
I loved it. Every day I went by the donut shop, and the donut shop gave me a free donut every morning. Still remember it, chocolate with peanut butter on it.
Oh.
It was the best donut ever. At 6 a.m., it's still warm.
That's all it takes, donuts.
Yeah, the donuts. I gave him a free paper.
That's
It
awesome.
was awesome. Thanks for asking that. I've never been asked that again.
Yeah, no problem.
Where's the big challenge for Ryan? Like, you seem to be fairly driven by a challenge. So where is the challenge for you in this? Is it strictly just building a company that you've never done before, so it's challenging? Or what's the thing that challenges Ryan? Because I'm going to guess that's a fairly heavy weight to your driver.
I think there are a couple challenges. I have personal challenges in the process, and then I have actual business challenges in the process. So I'll start with the business ones because they kind of feed into the personal. So my business challenges being I am not an expert at basically any of this. And so I've learned to do it as I've gone, but learning how to plan strategically, learning how to take a large investment and making as much runway as you can out of that, learning the technical side of things. So this is something that I had no background in technology at all. So learning, all these different elements and what that means for our product and where our product should go, and not always just trying to focus on what's coolest and hottest in the industry right now, but what we actually need and what's going to fit in our budget and what's going to fit in our roadmap for that year. So really understanding all aspects of the business and learning how to ramp up quickly in your expertise in each of those, but also knowing when to ask for help. That's something that I've never been afraid to do, is say, hey, this is not my expertise and this is where I need help, which is great because then you have all these really, really smart people around you that want to help. So never be afraid to ask. People really want to lend their assistance. Personally, I think the biggest challenge for me, and I've heard this from other startup founders too, is not losing who you are in the process, because who you are is why you started the company and why it can be successful. And so no matter how, low and stressful the company gets to how successful and, high you can get on the company, you have to maintain who you are and understand why you started it. And so that's something that I haven't struggled with yet, but I worry about struggling with. And so I'm a pretty even-keeled person, and I think it's helped in the startup process, but it's really just maintaining that as you go.
And are you a book reader?
Yeah, this is my escape.
That's your book?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're a novel reader?
Novels. Oh, I can't read nonfictions. It's too real. And then Carrie here, she's on my team. She's always trying to get me to watch Silicon Valley, and I always tell her I can't watch that. It's too much of my real life. So I like to escape to other places.
So you're not reading like business books every month and.
No, that would stress me out. I'm like that. I'll do that once the business stuff is over.
Yeah, that's great. And so, where do you learn from? You obviously surround yourself with smart people.
Mm-hmm.
That you learn just through osmosis, obviously. You have an advisory board, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You're asking them questions. Tell us how you're cultivating that knowledge. How do you utilize those people? How do you call them on the phone once a week, or how's it work?
Yeah, so we're lucky enough that our president, also our investor, and then our acting CTO, I see in the office almost every single day. And so there are people that I can go to, 20 times a day if I need to ask questions, and I usually do. I've also hired people who are experts in their fields, and so I ask them questions. And I think that's something that you have to be able to do as the CEO, is realize that you're not always telling people what to do. You're saying, hey, I can guide us all together, but I want you to own your position. I want you to tell me where to take this. And then we'll, see how that fits in and see how we're going to drive it from there. But I think it's really important to always surround yourself with people who have differing opinions, who are way smarter than you, and then you can guide it.
Here's the thing that you just said that I think is super important for first-time founders. You are smart enough, or your ego is small enough, not all the time I'm sure, but it's small enough that you can say, I don't know, I've never done this, so tell me what you think. And I'm going to listen and hear you out, and then we're going to make a decision and go forward. So that, I think, is super important for the young founder that's never done it before, because it's okay you don't know. It's totally okay. Not everyone knows when they're 25 or 30 or even 40 what to do. Mm-hmm. It's being able to say that, and not having the ego that you have to know, like the CEO has to know because the CEO has to know because the CEO, right? Which is not the case.
It's not the case at all, and I found that people who you admire, if you really look into their business, you really start talking to them, admit to the same things, that they still don't know. And so they still rely on people, around them that they surround themselves with to really guide them. But there are a lot of times that when you're thinking about investments or how much you pay people or all this kind of stuff, you can really think, I can have an ego, and that's going to be awesome, and I, will have an ego for 3 months, and the company's going to shut down because I'm going to drive it into the ground with that ego. Yeah. Or you can put yourself in the back seat, listen to other people, and have a successful company that's built out over, 5-10 years. So you always have to think, what's the end game here? Is to build success. How do you get there? You put your ego, you check it at the door. You come in, you know what people are good at, and you bring them to the table.
Yeah, that is older than you are. Knowledge that you wouldn't have at your age. So kudos to you for finding that somewhere along the line.
Thank you.
Um, your mom is an inspiration to you. Is it the drive you get from her or got from her? What is it? What is it that?
Yeah, so my mom was a financial advisor, and she was in a field that was completely dominated by males for the whole time that she was in it. And growing up, I was so tired of hearing that story from her because she always
said it. Right?
She always said it, and she always just like, Ryan, you just don't understand. Like, I'm the only woman here, and you may be that one day, and you just have to know that this is what she always said, and this is something I'm passionate about, that doesn't make a difference, and to stop thinking about yourself as the only woman. Because at the end of the day, you have to be as successful as the men, if not more, and just fit in and do your thing. And she was passionate about that, something I am too, that being a woman, like, I love it, it is awesome, but I have to be just as good as the men, if not better. And it's not it's not an excuse, and people shouldn't be like, oh, we need more women, so bring them in. Be really, really good at your job, and that's why they want to bring you in.
Yeah.
So she's a inspiration to me for that. She's an inspiration to me because she had breast cancer when I was maybe the second year of founding Fitcode, and then she passed away 2 years ago. And it was really amazing contrast between being at work and being at a very, very stressful time in a company, and then leaving the office and going to chemotherapy and watching her health journey, because I was just able to think, whatever happened at the office.
Yeah, it's so small.
Yeah, so small. So small. It's such a privilege. And we talked about it all the time that, work stress is an incredible privilege, and people get so wrapped up in it, and it brings them down and it affects their personal life, and they're not realizing that they've chosen that stress. And so when I would go into the office and I would have stress with finance and stress with where the product was going and stress with partners, I thought, oh my Lord, this is such a privilege. Like, this is not real. We can get through this. We can make decisions to get through this. And so it was this amazing contrast that really turned out to be a blessing, and just being able to think, oh my goodness, everything that's stressing me out here, I can change, and that's powerful.
Yeah, and not that it's good, but it's good that you saw that at that period, because many people get so caught up in their company that it, like you've already said, it just overwhelms them. It's everything to them is what they're doing, so they think it's the most important thing in the world. To everyone, it's only to them. So like, they bring it home, it's important, and they talk to their friends, it's important, and people are like, dude, it's kind of important, but it ain't that important.
It's not that important, and it also gets a little tiresome if your friends only have to hear you complain about how stressful it is because you chose to do it. And so I talk to my friends about that all the time. It's like, hey, I can't feel bad for you because you're choosing these things. Like, I chose to be a startup founder, so I can't always complain about how stressful it is because it was a choice.
Yeah. Well, that's great that you got to experience that again. That's really helpful as you go on in the real world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also was a pretty quick course in boundaries, and that's something that's really important if you're going to start a company, is you need to know where to draw the line. And for me, I was able to leave the office, and she was in chemo every Monday up here in Seattle, and so I left the office, and the team didn't know where I was going. They didn't need to know, and I could turn off work, and I could go to chemo, and I could just be there with my mom and be who she needed at that moment, and then go back in the next day and get back to work. Yeah. And so, there's a very clear boundary for me that I do not bring my personal life into work, and I try very hard to not bring my work into my personal life. And you can talk about it some, but I think you have to keep the two separate, and it's how you make both successful. Yeah,
it's not easy. I mean, it's just not easy, right? Mm-hmm. No matter where you are. I mean, I bring it home. I talk about some things that happen during the day. But I don't sit there and whine and complain about it, right? Mm-hmm. Questions, guys? If you have any questions, put them in your head, because we'll get a few more questions when you're ready. Where is what's the scary part in your daily routine? Like, what's scary is there anything scary? Or is it just so kind of straightforward, and swim into the end of the pool and back? And what is it? What's the scary thing that you wake up and you're, not every day, but there's some things, I mean, I have days where I'm like, holy shit, I just don't know what to do, right? What's scary to Ryan?
Being responsible for my team. That's the scariest thing for me, absolutely. I mean, there's no question about it. So I am fine with whatever happens to me personally, but knowing you're responsible for people and responsible for their families, that is a driving factor for me. And so, I can make decisions and I can live with the decisions I make, but once you have a team that believes in you and relies on you, you're responsible now for them and their families and the people they support. And so that is a big stress when you're doing it for the first time, but it's also a pretty motivating factor. And so no matter how I'm feeling, no matter where I'm at, we got to keep driving because we have other people who believe in this now. This is not just me on this train. And so you just got to keep moving it forward.
Yeah. So that's something that keeps you, it's in the back of your mind.
All the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Where's the thing that if I know, here's a better question. If you and I are starting a company tomorrow, we have this great idea, right? And we already know it's a problem, right? We already know there's people out there that experience this problem. If you could tell me as a first-time founder, what would be the thing that I could not do, what would it be?
Put your own money in the company. I really believe in that. I do not think, I do, and I know people disagree, but I don't think you make the best decisions if you're emotionally tied to the money that's in your company. People, there's a whole theory that you have to spend money to make money. I don't totally buy into that, but I do know that you have to be willing to take risks with money that I don't know if I would have been willing to make if it was my own money. First off, I didn't have enough money to start a company.
Yeah, exactly. But if I did.
But if I did, I still don't know if I would, because at least for me, I think everyone's different. I would have been too emotionally invested to the money that I put in to make the decisions that needed to be made to move the company forward.
Interesting philosophy. I can see both sides of that, right?
What do you think?
I have a hard time not putting my own money in it. Not to say I have a lot of money. Like, I'm not saying I have to put all my money in. I've done that, and that didn't go well. Right? So I've experienced that one. I know not to do that, but I don't know. I feel like I always have to put something, like money that I can afford to lose kind of money.
Yeah, and I get that. And maybe it's that, I started this at 25 years old, so money that I could afford to lose would have been like $50,
Yeah, exactly.
which wouldn't have gotten us very far.
Yeah.
But for me, I put everything that I was into the company.
Yeah.
And so being able to separate that from my personal finance was something that was just a little bit of grace that I think I needed to be able to make that leap. Because one, when you're young, but two, when you start anything, you put your entire life into it. And I put, you put all your stress, all your happiness, everything is around that company. And if I would have had the emotional, like, oh my gosh, I'm also dead broke because all my money's in here, it probably would have been too much. I probably would have been too fearful to keep going.
Yeah, because it does happen where you literally you're all in. Mm-hmm. Every chip is in, not like some of them, every chip.
That sounds terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
It is terrifying. Yeah, especially when you know you're losing the chips. Questions, guys? Go ahead.
If you could meet one entrepreneur today, who would it be and what do you want to learn from them?
If you could meet one entrepreneur today, who would it be?
What would you learn?
And what would you learn?
That's a good question. Who would I meet? I would love, and I almost had the chance to meet Brooklyn Decker. So this is someone who was at Create and Cultivate, an event that I was speaking at too. She's an interesting one that I would love to meet just because she came from the same background that I did. So she was a model who saw a problem and created a solution. So she would be really, really interesting for me to meet. I'm actually getting the opportunity to meet with one that I first heard of this month at something called the National Retail Federation. He's the CEO and founder of a company called Opturo. And I'm excited to meet with him because he's in a similar space. He's dealing on the return side of things, but they've had a lot of success getting in with brands and retailers. And so I'm really interested to hear from him how they did it. You know, what was the deciding factor for these companies to finally make the move and really to sign with them? So I think right now it would probably be those two, but I'm sure tonight I'll think of someone else who I want to meet more than both of them and feel silly for not being able to answer.
Who would you want to meet, Olive?
I've already met him. I didn't think I was going to. Jim Senegal from Costco.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Because that's someone who has built something that he can be proud of, and he's true to himself all throughout, and never granted Kramer an interview.
That's good. He said
like
he
that.
didn't bow to Wall Street, which is interesting how they treated their employees always better than the Wall Street wanted to treat them.
I think he also had President Obama over at his house multiple times, which I'm very jealous of. So I would also like to meet him.
Yeah, exactly.
Jim or Obama?
Both.
Both. Yeah, either one would be great. Right? Any more questions, guys? Go ahead.
How did you get your first sale?
How did you get your first sale in Fitcode?
In Fitcode.
Okay.
By being absolutely relentless and selling something that I didn't even know if we could build yet. So it was a company here, actually locally in Seattle, a company called Jag Jeans, and I was just relentless in talking to them. And their first president and CEO at the time knew there was something special to Fitcode, I think before we even did, and so he took a chance on us, and it really helped mold the product that we've built today. But you have to be relentless with those sales, and you just have to keep going. And everyone always tells you you're going to hear no's. What I've had more experience with is hearing nothing, and you're going to have silence after silence after silence, and no one's going to respond to emails, and you just have to keep charging through. Find a way to get in contact with them, and just know that your product will change their business, and be confident in that.
Ryan, are you we just mentioned, are you a fan or belief in working your network to get to, humans you want to talk to?
I think you have to. I'm not a networker by nature. It's not something that I excel at. But when you have a product that can truly change businesses, people who are going to want to introduce you to people. And so I think if you build something that people are passionate about and build something that can make a difference, the network's going to be there for you. And so I'm a believer in networking in the sense that it is the fastest and most successful way to get what you want, and so it's really, really powerful. But I do think there's something to also creating a product that consumers can vouch for you for, and so if you have people working from you on the networking side, have consumers demanding something, then also just be pounding the pavement and knocking on doors, that's kind of the trifecta.
Yeah. Buzz?
So 73% of the wealth in America is controlled by my people, aging baby boomers.
Old baby boomers. Buzz.
So the people with money, how are you going to address our market?
How do you address the 50
People with-
plus?
The people with money.
So a company like Jag Jeans has an older audience already, and so it's been really interesting working with all these different denim brands because each company has a different target market. And so some are definitely a younger audience, some are older, but what we're finding is that older audiences are actually engaging with our product almost more right now than younger audiences are, because one, they're not scared of online. They think it's awesome, and so they want to test out cool new things. But two, they just want things to be easy, and they're used to going in store and having this very personalized experience. And so they're finding it really interesting that Fitcode's now able to personalize that experience for them online. And you guys are a trusting audience, which is really interesting to us. We have a lot of younger populations who they just want to test things out, and they're really cool about innovation. They want to try things. You guys trust it. And so when we come in and we say, hey, we know who you are, we know your body shape, and when they get that information back and they go, oh my gosh, you do know me, you do know what I look like, and we give them recommendations, they're engaging with it. And so it's really just about working with brands who, older audiences are being drawn to and helping them learn how to personalize that experience.
Go ahead.
What's been the most rewarding part of the job so far?
Most rewarding part of the job so far?
People managing. I think it's probably the hardest, but it is also the most rewarding by far. So I think a lot of people say sales. Sales are what enable me to have people, and so that's powerful. But having a team that works well together and seeing them grow in ways that I don't think they even thought possible is the most rewarding part. I'm a big believer in hiring people just because they are scrappy and you know they're going to be in the trenches with you. I've said this before, but I don't care where people went to college. I will look at your resumes and get a little bit of your experience, but if I think you have the skills needed to do the job now and you have the drive and the hunger to learn what you need to do, then you're someone I want on our team.
Yeah, culture. Go ahead.
What's the revenue model, and then also in the product roadmap, are you looking outside of jeans?
So how do you make money,
Blazer shirts.
and what's the next fit?
Yeah, so we do revenue share, so that makes it a really easy sell for our partners. So we take a percentage of every jean that we help sell. So how it works in e-com is people talk about conversion rates. And so what conversion rates are is if a person hits a site, if they then purchase, we count that as conversion. And conversion rates are really low on e-com, so they're 2% or less usually. And so 2% of people who actually go to a brand or retail website are actually purchasing. And our whole model is driven off the fact that across every brand we have integrated with, we have boosted their conversions by at least 3x. So we are really successful at getting people to actually purchase on your site. So rev share works really well for us. Product roadmap, we are obviously going to men's here the next few days. We are now doing all bottoms, so not just jeans, so we can do any material bottoms, which is great. And then the move after that, like I said, are retailers and omni-channel, and so we need to bring this experience in store too. So even though everything's going online right now, online is still sometimes 15% or less of these companies, and so we have to live in store. I think the problem is in store as well. People go into Nordstrom's floor, there's hundreds of jeans, they don't know which ones to buy, they have terrible lighting in the dressing rooms, like we all know, so it's just a bad experience. So if we can say, hey, here are the jeans you should put in there that are going to fit this customer, they're going to buy more and have a better experience. From there, we will go to most likely women's tops, men's tops, and then dresses. I work down by number one return rates. That's my driving force there. So women's denim is the number one fit-related return. 52% of all jeans, bottom line, are returned. Women's dresses are the number one returned item, but because of style and not fit. So I'm really driven to just go down the list of what are the fit returns, and then let's start conquering them.
So you go up like bras, I'm assuming is part of that.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some companies that are doing the bra thing really well, so I don't know if that's something that we would want to get into right now. I don't think it's a huge problem. I think there are people in that space who are doing it well. Tops are something that are still a big problem, and so we can go there.
Yeah. Ben,
What's your morning routine like?
what's your morning routine like?
Oh, that depends on the morning. So I wake up, we have a fantastic 140-pound Rhodesian Ridgeback, and so I get him out. He's awesome. It usually takes some convincing to get him out of bed. So I get the dog out, make coffee, make a smoothie, get myself ready, get into the office, and then I'm at the office. My team and I like to work out at lunch. We have a great workout studio below our building, which we go to, and then I like to have my afternoons off. So I like to get most of the stuff done at the first half of the day, so when I'm done at the end of the day, I really just get to go home.
Kudos for you for doing that. That's not easy.
What was the process when you initially spotted the problem to developing a product you felt had product market fit?
So what was the process of going from idea to actually a real product that worked?
I still don't really get how we did it. So the process actually was finding our investor. And so you really can't start unless you have someone to put some money in so you can start exploring it. And so we found our investor. I went over with a legal notepad to his house, having never done this before, and I was like, this is my idea. He was a contact. It's not as creepy as it sounds, but I went to his house. And so he was a friend of a friend. And so I went to his house and I was like, this is the idea, this is what I think. He was really interested. He gave us initial investment to try to, look into it. And he was the one who introduced me to our now CTO, who came on and really helped me wireframe what the product was. And so from there, we actually went to an initial designer in New York. I don't know if you guys know this. We went to an initial designer in New York who wireframed the whole process for us and what the product could look like. And then I was able to look at this whole thing and be like, holy smokes, this could actually work. This is where I need to change it. And then we decided to start hiring contractors to start building it. And then we had contractors for a year who then became full-time employees after a year.
One more question. Go ahead.
So as people that specialize in finding solutions to problems, we often have kind of two pressures of what we can dream and build to solve that problem, but also what we can do to have something that's saleable. And so how do you kind of manage making those compromises as you go along?
So what you can dream and what you can actually build?
What you want to do versus what you can sell at the end of the day.
Yeah, there are a lot of really cool things we could all do, but for, Fitcode specifically, you have to bring it back to how are you going to make money? And so if a partner is not going to buy what you're making, don't go there now. And so just because you can think of a cool technology, you can build a cool technology, if no one's going to buy it, it's not a cool technology. And so for us, it's like we always go for the lowest hanging fruit. There are a lot of really, really cool places we could do, but let's get the lowest hanging fruit that's going to make all of our partners happy and make all of our partners money, and then Fitcode's going to make money in the long run.
That's great. Thank you very much. We will be here on the same back channel the last Tuesday of February with Sarah Imbach, who is an angel investor. And you know her?
She's part of our Female Founders Alliance.
I would guess so. Yeah. And so we'll see you here then. If there's any questions, shoot me an email, Mike@StartupGrind. Super thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Spending the evening with us.
Absolutely.
And thank you for, where'd your husband go?
I think he just went to the
Oh,
bathroom.
okay. I was gonna say thanks for coming, but and thanks for spending some time. And audience, thanks for being here. Have a safe evening, and we'll see you next month. Be safe.
Good job.
Thanks so much.
Very good job.
Yeah.
Great.